What a great opportunity to catch up with the head coach of Austin FC, Josh Wolff. Josh, thank you very much, as usual, for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks, Glenn.
All right, so let's start it off with how satisfying was this comeback in the context of a real good rivalry game with FC Dallas?
I think anytime you're down 2-0 and you come back, it feels pretty good. You're obviously disappointed to be down 2-0. So those are the things that we got to look at and evaluate and look to make corrections on. But it was a good game. It was an entertaining game against Dallas. I think the first half was fairly cagey. They're a team that can hurt you by keeping the ball. They're also a team that can hurt you by having quick attacks, transition, and real verticality. So we were mindful of that in the first half, probably a little too deliberate with our possession game. We lost a little bit of the ability to be more direct and vertical ourselves, but I liked how we had a good amount of control of the game. And they're a good team, and as are we. So the first goal is always going to be an important one. And the game picked up speed there in the second half real quick. Obviously, they got two, and we needed to step on the gas, and the guys responded extremely well. And it was satisfying in that respect. We've been down in a number of games this year. In Houston as well early in the year, and the guys hang in there, keep their cool, understand what the game needs, and now go and execute. And I like that aspect. I think we've really grown in that area this year, and it's been nice to see.
Austin FC head coach Josh Wolff joining us here on the Horn in Austin, Texas Soccer Matters, presented by John Daspit Law Firm. It's amazing how quickly the game can flip. When I'm watching this game, and it's 2-0, and then all of a sudden it's 2-2, and I'm going, oh, Austin FC can win this game. And in fact, almost I thought you guys were going to go over the top here and get a result. I mean, what's going through your mind at this point?
Well, I think, when you're down 2-0, it's just getting that first one. It doesn't matter if it's in the 70th minute, the 85th minute. You want to give yourself a chance now to grab the point. You're down and you're against it a bit, being down 2 goals, but momentum swings quickly. We've faced this a number of times this year where we've been down 2-0 or 1-0. Getting the first goal is critical, and that momentum swings quickly in our league. Second halves of games, we understand, tend to be a little more open, and teams get fatigued, and we truly believe cumulatively we're going to affect the opponent as well. So as the game goes later, and now we're pushing, that they're obviously feeling it a little bit and getting pinned in. So we grabbed the second one, and as you said, I mean, there was a third one there for in the end they also had an opportunity, but we felt good about it as well. And it's still about pushing. Tying at home is not something that is going to help you make the playoffs. Obviously, this tie maybe feels a little bit better because we were down 2-0, but when you're at home, we need to win. So we wanted to keep pushing and look for that third and grab the 3 points. But it's a decent result at home against another rival inside the state, and we keep ourselves in a good position for the Texas Cup.
As time moves on, as you get more games against the in-state rivals, I think everybody's really excited about it. Do you feel after each game you play a Texas opponent that the rivalry is growing?
I think so. They beat us 3 times last year, and we were quick to address that. And I put together something with a bit of our communications team, our marketing team, our social media guys, just to preface what this game was going to be about. And rivalries don't just happen. It does take time, but they also take instances and situations. And we've been on the other side of it with Dallas. So this was a moment for us to really try to push and kind of make this rivalry a rivalry. And I think it was a competitive game, two good teams that play good soccer and pushed each other at the end. I think we certainly challenged them throughout the game, and happy with the tie, but obviously we also feel we could have done better in this.
Josh, something interesting you said there. You're working with the digital and the PR team. How much of that do you do? Because I actually think that's an important link between a head coach and the front office.
Yeah, well, I think it's important. I think we've done a few things this year. I think it's important to bring emotion into what we do. This is an emotional job, and game days are emotional. You feel it when you're in Q2. You feel the emotion from the fans and from our community, and these players. I want them and to leave them in a place before they go out to battle and compete, that there's something there. There's an angst, there's a tension, and there's emotion right under the surface, and especially games against Houston and against Dallas. Now, these are our rivals, and we've done it in a few games. I don't know every game, but you want it to be impactful and you want it to be purposeful. And certainly I have good communication with those guys. We've had a few new faces come and go, but it is important. And you live in the media world as well, and social media, and getting our team more visibility, our players more visibility, is important, and for our fans, but for our organization as well. So I like doing a little bit of that. It's been a nice side that I wasn't so keen on as an assistant in my previous jobs.
Josh Wolff joining us, head coach of Boston FC. Do you fear that the game's getting at times a little over commercialized?
I think the sport has gone in a direction now and has grown in a way that it's just part of it. I think when you look around and you see the NFL and you see football and you see basketball, I mean, there is a commercialization to our sport. There's a visibility, a viability, and a money now that's involved with soccer. And I guess you can't get to that and it's stay kind of quiet in that space. So it's part of the job. And I think me being a coach, it's having a presence in that media side and certainly in the social media side, but I try to keep it as straightforward as possible. Players can also utilize these platforms, but I would say to our guys and to our staff, you utilize it in a way that you feel comfortable with, but obviously understand it does come with some scrutiny and some criticism, but it is part of the game. And we have, the game has evolved quickly in this country. It's amazing what soccer has become now in the United States. And it's great to be part of that. And, I think we have a responsibility to keep pushing that side of it as well from a media standpoint.
All right. Do you ever walk away after a game, or you're driving home to go back to your residence? You're thinking about a lot of things. This ought to be fun. And you're thinking about a lot of things, and you just say, boy, I am so thankful I have that fan base behind me, because like you said, you guys score a goal in a 2-0 game, and it's like, it just flips. It's pretty insane.
Yeah,
And it's an asset, right?
It's a complete asset, and of course, it's good to have our fans voice themselves when they're displeased as well. That's part of this, and that's part of building a team. And I think we recognize that as coaches, as players, and that helps create the tension and the angst. But what they give us in the stadium is awesome. Not just our supporter groups, but the rest of the fans around the stadium, our community. It's been tremendous. Our contact points with this community from the moment we got here has been unbelievable, from our players to our PR to everything, and they reciprocate that to us. So it's a family in every sense of the word. And I think we're all proud to be part of the Austin FC organization, but we're all proud to be part of Austin. I think that's the most important thing. And our fan base has been incredible.
Josh Wolff, Austin FC. Do any of your other coaching colleagues ever say to you, man, I wish I had a little bit more of that where I'm at? You don't have to mention names.
No, I think a lot of places have it. I think, again, you're seeing it all around the league. I mean, Dallas is now, the fan base in Dallas to me is a noticeable uptick in this last year. So Houston as well. So I think the game day experience for me has absolutely transformed Major League Soccer. It's very unique now. When you go to these games and you feel the energy, whether it's in our stadium or, there's plenty of good stadiums around the league. It's a unique experience, from the volume to the food to the, just the textures inside the stadium. And obviously there's an on-field product as well that helps carry that narrative. And, I think other coaches and other staffs are appreciative of coming here. I, as a player, loved going to venues now where it was intense and it was loud, the volume was there, the fans were, because it gets you invigorated. And I think they appreciate coming and it being a beautiful stadium, but also having a real energy and an electric atmosphere.
Does that energy, I would assume you feel that energy visibly affects opponents as well?
Yeah, I think so. And again, it may give them a little burst of energy to start the game, but we also feel as the game goes, and just like this game and against Orlando, when we can flip the momentum, that volume and that energy that they give us allows us to now suppress the opponent, to again put them in an uncomfortable position. So again, what I saw in this game late for us pushing against Dallas was just that. Against Orlando, obviously they were down a couple guys. It helps drive you when you're beating teams, and now you're going for the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. They are pushing you, and it's a constant buzz, and it's constantly electric, which is for our guys, puts them in a good space to keep competing and keep pushing the tempo of the game.
Has that ever gotten detrimental in games where, because of the energy of the crowd, you maybe wanted your team to put your foot on the ball, maybe manage the game a little bit more, and the crowd's so intense that it just keeps the guys going forward? I mean, that's a challenge, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think the word that you used there was the management, the game management. And that's something we've talked about all year. Of course, when we're at home, we're expected to drive the game. We're expected to make the game. And it doesn't mean you make the game or push the game in a way that causes you risk or is irresponsible. The fans are going to be there. They're going to keep pushing us. But for us as players on the field, now it's about managing the moments of the game. What do you want it to look like? How do you want to start the game, with the intentions now to put the opponents under pressure? There's also going to be moments where we're going to have to suffer. And I think that's what we've become more comfortable with this year, when we don't have the ball, or the opponent now has a little bit more of it than us, staying calm and managing that situation and knowing, we're going to get back into this, or we're going to get a hold of the game. The word I use often is control. So how can we now reestablish control in those moments? And again, get the fans back on our side to keep pushing us in a good way.
All right. How difficult was this last year? Because look, I saw the principles being put in place. I said I was never in a place of panic year one, because I realized what you were doing, trying to build the team, the model of the team, the purpose of play. Yes, it was going to have to be tweaked. But how tough did it get at times last year? Because listen, there was a lot of expectations on you. You got a full house, you got owners, people want to win, and they want to win now.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And it got tough. I mean, it was definitely tough. I didn't come into the space thinking it was going to be easy, but I think that's also part of it. And we try to create expectations, and I think our language and narrative coming into the league and from our inception was, we want to be competitive and we want to make the playoffs. That's not too far different than most teams. And I think we set out those goals, and along the way, again, I think COVID was extremely difficult, more difficult than I probably expected it to be. You have a natural disconnect to your group. You're not in the, tight spaces and able to do team functions, where this year, it's been a big part of our success, bringing in players that now have good leadership experience, are good human beings, and continuing to build that culture from within. Those things made it challenging last year because they just didn't exist, or they were challenging to uphold. And like you said, owners, you spend a lot of money now and you expect to make the playoffs and you want to win. So we're aware of that. The ideas, I think, and the execution within games was pretty good. Our inability to score goals led to our inability to win games, and thus put big pressure on us defensively. And that over time was really, really wearing. But the guys hung in there, and we focused on good goals at the end of the year of what we wanted to be as a home team. And that kind of carried us through the end of the season, being much more difficult at home, winning games. And that carried us into this space this year. So it was a difficult year. It was purposeful as we look back and reflected on it, and got us to a good spot where I think we've been performing quite well this year.
Austin FC head coach Josh Wolff, you said purposeful. These are learning moments, right? Even for you as a young, very talented, ambitious coach, I have to think last year is something you put a feather in your cap, and you went through a lot of stuff you you certainly never went through before, that you now have in the memory bank.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, when I reflect on myself and, how we taught, what we did, how we built our roster, how we delivered the game model to our players, you got to be open for criticism. And I speak to a lot of coaches around the league to try to get feedback, after games, but in the off season as well. And we talk real specifically and candidly in here with ourselves. So that's the first thing. And then it's identifying how you want to make the corrections, personnel, types of people that you want to bring in, qualities that you want to bring in. How can we change the game model to better fit our needs and certainly adjust to some of the problems that we had, but also expand on the things that we were good at. And again, last year was difficult, but there was a lot of learning. There was also a lot of good in what we were able to do, I think, in the first year. So it was keeping those things in mind and being positive about that, but knowing that improvement is always needed. And even though we are where we are right now, which is in a good spot in our conference, but there's still plenty to improve on. There's still personnel that we need to add to our roster. There's depth that we got to continue to get better with. And there's just execution that we have to continue to try to refine. But I think the last 18 months has been a process, and it's continued to evolve. It will continue to evolve as well. We're not a finished product.
Josh Wolff joining us. We really appreciate this. Josh, speaking to that, you know, personnel, a lot of times personnel solves problems, right? I think it's as simple as that sometimes, but this window coming up, we see a lot of teams in Major League Soccer making moves. Houston's going to have to grow with Hector Herrera in their lineup. We see what's going on in LA. How important is it for you guys to make a move here, especially with the situation? You've lost a good player for the moment in Cecilio Dominguez as well, and Johan Valencia.
Yeah, it's important. I think in this league, complacency and being static is difficult and can be compromising. We need to continue to try to enhance our roster and continue to bring in talent. Ruben Gabrielson and Johan Valencia have been good international additions. Maxi, Ethan, and you know, certainly Felipe have been good domestic additions, but we need to make some more additions here in the summer transfer window and even in the winter transfer window. So those things are things we're working on right now. I know, you know, we got a few things that are being worked on, and we're hopeful that we can get some things done here quickly in the summer to again continue to enhance our roster.
Do you think the fan base understands all the moving parts that are going on at every second here?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're continuing to monitor players around the world. I mean, you're thinking about your future with an under 23 team or a reserve team. I mean, there's just so much going on that you know, on game day, nobody really thinks about all these other moving parts.
No, that's probably true. That's probably true. It's tough to, you know, and it probably isn't something that they should get concerned with. They should be mostly involved with, you know, obviously coming to the stadium and obviously given the support that they feel that is appreciated by all of us. But it's a lot going on behind the scenes with our league. There are different types of rules of how we build rosters, and you know, I think it's as you said, now we have the MLS Next Pro team coming in, so how that can be utilized to also support the first team. But ultimately, our fan base is going to be most intrigued by, most focused on, and most energized by the first team. So getting more high quality players, adding depth that will ultimately help us continue to win home games and be a team that on the road is very difficult. And you know, we want to make the playoffs as does every team in this league, but we want to play at home and we want to put ourselves in a chance to win trophies.
All right, I'm intrigued. Where'd you find this Owen Wolff kid? I was trying to be funny there because I thought, but look, your son is playing well. Has his opportunity accelerated here? And take us into the fine line of, you know, it's not easy when a father's a father and a coach, and what it sort of looks like to a fan base. You know,
Sure.
You know it well with Bob Bradley and Michael Bradley. You know, there's always going to be the guy yelling nepotism.
Yeah.
You know, take us into that a little, because I think it's fascinating. And your son is only 17, for crying out loud.
Yeah, optically, it was always going to be that. And as you mentioned, some of the names, Bob Bradley and Michael, and I was in Chicago when, you know, Michael was young and training with us. And yeah, I've talked to my kids openly about it. They're going to have, you know, moments where people view them and talk about them in a different light than others, because you are my son and you know, I happen to play in the league. I've done what I've done, and now I'm a coach. But you know, those words are just words, and we can't get distracted or bothered by them. And the nepotism thing, of course, when Owen signs here for us, and you know, granted, Claudio Reyna is a pretty exceptional player in his own right, has built a couple rosters in this league already, and did a really good job establishing and identifying young talent in New York City. So Owen wasn't somebody that I brought to the table and was like, you know, here's a guy. Owen came here because he had a stress fracture in his back when he was in Atlanta, and it wasn't managed or you know, monitored correctly. So I brought him here for rehab and then just kept him here. I didn't get to see Owen play for probably 12 months to 16 months because of national team work and just the rigors of helping build Austin FC. And once he got here, we were, you know, for me as a dad, it was getting him healthy and getting him fit. And then he started to take part in some of our trainings. And Claudio was like, you know, I don't know if the plan is he's going back to Atlanta or staying here, but why don't you keep him around and let him keep training? And then over time, you know, we didn't have, he's 2 days too old for the U17 academy team. But we were able to get him into a space now with playing games with the academy, and Claudio, you know, was quick to say that, you know, recognize the talent and say, let's just get him as a homegrown and see what we have here and get him playing games. And since then, and even since he first got here, his energy and commitment to get stronger and fitter and fit into this group has been really, really strong. And he'll always have that angst that he's the father's son and that he's got to prove something, but these players have taken him in, and he wouldn't get the opportunity if he wasn't good enough. And that's just the way the world works. And if he wasn't good enough, he wouldn't be out there. It doesn't matter his age. And just now you see it all around our league. It's awesome to see the young kids playing. If you're good enough, you're going to play. And, that's what we have to be comfortable doing. Of course, there's going to be moments where young players may struggle, but man, the upside is so much bigger than that. If we can put ourselves in that space to allow it to happen. But he's been doing good. He's still got a ways to go, but pleased with his progress. And again, got to stay humble, stay hungry, and keep developing.
Yeah, fascinating story. Thank you for sharing that. I really like that. The hit or miss guy in MLS, we see a lot of them, right? Can pull off a play and you're going, wow. But to get the consistency out of people, is that something you can coach into these guys at this point? Because there's so many guys I see in MLS and I'm just like, wow, if they could do that over the span of 3 or 4 games, a little more consistently, they might be a starter. They might be an upper echelon player. How do you deal with that consistency with individuals?
I think so. I think at any age, these players, and when we recruit players and we bring players here, when as a staff, when I talk to players today, there has to be, a growth mindset, whether you're 20, 25, 30. I mean, with Sebastian Giussi, I have to have him believe that I can help make him better, that we can help make him better. Of course, he's an exceptional talent. But he's one that's pretty consistent. Other players that are now player 12 to 15 or 15 to 20, or even our regulars. Yes, I think, of course, we can affect and influence their consistency. I think it's being very specific as to what their roles and responsibility are within a game, what the expectations going into a match look like, but also their habits, their training habits. I think all of those things play a role in how you can create an environment and a culture for these players to feel good about what they're doing, to allow them just to play. And just playing, to me, is a product of our daily discipline and our organization by which we work. The preparation is what should make those game day performances more identifiable, more calm, and more consistent.
Josh, 2 questions ago. We'll make it quick here. You've been very generous with your time. Thank you very much for that. The value of possession, which is so fundamental to your game, and nurturing the ball. You've heard this a million times from a million people. Do you believe that helps you and positions you better to get road results, to play with 10 men, situations like this? Because I look at games and I just say, wow, with this possession, this breakout capability, this is such an asset on the road that a lot of teams don't necessarily possess.
I think there's a lot of philosophies in soccer. I think ultimately each team has a philosophy, has an identity by the way that they work. Possession to some is important. Compactness is important to others. So ultimately, you're going to win games by scoring goals and not allowing the opponent to score goals. So there's a variety of ways to do it. Possession, to me, is an important part, but it's still about the intentional ideas that you want to perform in front of goal, going to goal, the actions that are required and needed now when you're trying to produce goals, verticality, speed, running behind the line, arriving in the box. Those types of things, to me, whether you're a possession team or not, are going to need to apply. And I just literally walked through with our staff this game against Dallas. It's nice to have possession, but the idea is to have real clear ideas and intentions about how we're going to go and score goals. So cumulatively, by maintaining possession, you can move and frustrate and certainly tire out an opponent that may give you opportunities later in the game. But ultimately, I still believe you have to have good ideas and certainly good structure and certainly players that can deliver it. But running behind the line, playing between lines, and again, a speed element is important, but moving up the field in a way that's dynamic and coordinated and now impactful in front of goal. And whether that's done in 2 or 3 passes or 15 passes, is to each team's desire. But it's a part of our game, but it's not the make or break by any means.
Always curious, outside of all your MLS coach influences and MLS, any foreign coaches that you ever really liked their theories, their models around the game, their thoughts on the game? I can go back in time too. I mean,
yeah, I've watched Postecoglou, who was coaching at Celtic. I liked what he was doing. I watched him with a Japanese team. I watched him coach against Man City, and I watched what he was doing. And then peeled back, and now as he's been at Celtic, I've watched what he was doing. So Davey Arnaud grabbed a bunch of video in the offseason. We were breaking down what they were doing because it's very much a positional game. Fresh ideas, always looking for different ways to look at the game, listening to what other coaches are how they're delivering the game. But it's always nice to watch high level soccer, and whether it's Celtic dominating in their league, or it's Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, they're operating in a space that's intriguing to watch. And for me, you're looking at what are these coaches trying to do? How are they trying to gain control? And, what are they looking to do when they're finishing attacks, and then obviously prevent the opponent. So it's tough for me to watch games and enjoy them now, but that's the unfortunate side. My wife's like, our daughter's 12 years old. It's okay to just watch the game for fun and let her enjoy it. But it's a lot of constant analysis, but we got to stay, as players, we got to stay hungry to improve. As a coach, it's no different.
Boy, that's a crazy thing that you just said, because when you're watching a game because you're scouting it, or it's different than just kind of sitting back and kind of detaching a little and just watching it for pure enjoyment.
It's hard.
Last one before we let you go. Charlotte FC, FC Charlotte. How about a couple thoughts on them before we let you go?
Extremely good at home, for one thing. They haven't lost, which again, they're great fan base on turf, so a different surface, but similar. I spoke with Miguel Ramirez a number of times while he was still there. I know the coach currently was somebody that's been in the league, so he's quite familiar with MLS. They're a good team, positional team. They play a positional game, good with the ball, and again, they have a couple ways that they can beat you, and getting to goal. But I look at them as being much more organized now, defensively, having a real balance about what they're trying to do on both sides of the ball. So it'll be a challenging game. One, going there where they haven't lost and they have a great fan base, but two, they're a good team and they're well coached. Both the previous coach and this coach have put that club and that team in a good spot to compete, and we'll have our hands full. We'll definitely have our hands full.
First of 3 on the road, then Colorado, then Atlanta United. Josh, thank you so much for your time. Wonderful interview. I think Austin FC fans are going to really like this.
Super. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks as always. That's Josh Wolff, head coach of Austin FC. You're listening to Soccer Matters on the Horn in Austin, Texas, presented by John Daspit and the Daspit Law Firm. Take a break. We have more to come.